What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo. I'm doing great today. How are you doing? Today, I want to talk about the one player who could make or break the New York Giants 2025 season, and that player being none other than the man on the graphic right here, left tackle Andrew Thomas. And the reason why I want to talk about Andrew Thomas being so important for the New York Giants is his health. He's had some real problems staying healthy over the last two seasons, and the Giants, with Thomas on the field, are a completely different team than with Thomas on the sideline. And so I'm going to go ahead and dive into some of the stats that I found while researching this topic for you in today's episode, and also just have a conversation about why he's so important and why the New York Giants in 2025 likely cannot find success without Andrew Thomas. So going to go ahead and dive into that. Make sure you guys keep in mind this episode is sponsored by BetUS, and go ahead and check them out, the sportsbook with the fastest payouts in the industry. More on that later. So Andrew Thomas has played only 16 games over the last two seasons out of a possible, obviously, 34. So playing less than a full season of football across two seasons, well, that's not really what you want out of your franchise left tackle. And the stats are really eye-opening. Missing 18 games due to injury, that's a significant amount of time. And it is unfortunate that all 18 of those games that he's missed have come immediately after signing that big contract extension with the New York Giants. Now, if you don't remember, it was Andrew Thomas, I believe, who approached the New York Giants about wanting to get his contract done sooner rather than later. He could have played out one more year of the deal, maybe earned some more money in average annual salary, but opted to go ahead and sign it sooner rather than later in order to maintain the guarantees in the contract, knowing that he had a little bit of an injury history. Of course, the first couple of seasons of Andrew Thomas's career weren't great. He really didn't have that breakout until his third season. And through those first 2 years, he played for the majority of those seasons, but he did battle injuries and did have season-ending ankle surgery, I believe, at the end of his rookie year. So he's a player who, even though he plays through the pain oftentimes, or at least did in the early portions of his career, has constantly been banged up. He stayed healthy in 2022, and the New York Giants had their best season as an offense since Thomas has gotten here, and his health was a huge part of that. Of course, that was the year that the New York Giants went on to win 9 games, go to the playoffs, beat the Vikings, obviously lose to the Eagles, but their offense actually had a semblance of an identity that season. Now, Daniel Jones played really well that year, and that had a lot to do with it. Saquon Barkley was still an electric player. But really, if you go back and you watch those games, you can see that the New York Giants were calling plays with Andrew Thomas in mind. You know, we always talk about, oh, why don't you scheme up a play for Malik Neighbors, scheme up a play for Tyrone Tracy, scheme up a play for somebody. In 2022, the Giants were scheming up plays for Andrew Thomas, of all people. You don't usually see that, where they're calling a play that relies on the offensive lineman to be a playmaker, but the New York Giants did that sometimes in 2022. They would call some very dynamic rushing plays that would swing Andrew Thomas out as the lead blocker, allowing him to get to the second level, throw key blocks, and spark big runs, not only out of Saquon Barkley, but also out of Daniel Jones. In particular, I remember in that big win that the Giants had over the Indianapolis Colts near the end of that season, the game in which they clinched a playoff spot, they had a long rushing touchdown from Daniel Jones. He actually happened to get blown up by Bobby Okereke on the goal line, but still score the touchdown. But if you go back and you rewatch that play, it was a play design that asked Andrew Thomas to be the focal point, asked him to get out in front, throw a key block, and spring Daniel Jones open. And the Giants simply cannot call those plays and expand their playbook the way that they would like to when Andrew Thomas is not on the field. He makes those plays. Josh Azidu cannot make those plays. Chris Hubbard cannot make those plays. He is the single most important player to the New York Giants offensive scheme under Brian Daboll. That's Andrew Thomas. So that's more from a schematic standpoint and kind of an opinion-based standpoint. But I will dive into the numbers now and really demonstrate why he's so important and how much the New York Giants offense has missed him over the last two seasons, pulling from the stats that I compiled in this article that I wrote for Empire Sports Media. In 2023, Thomas suffered a hamstring injury in week 1 that sidelined him for 7 games. During that stretch of games that Thomas was out of the lineup, the Giants went 2-5, surrendering 34 sacks and scoring an average of only 13.6 points per game. A similar story was written in 2024. Thomas suffered a Lisfranc injury in the fourth quarter of the Giants' Week 6 loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. He subsequently underwent season-ending surgery. In the 11 games the Giants were forced to play without Thomas, they went 1-10, surrendering 34 sacks and scoring an average of just 16.09 points per game. Prior to his injury, the Giants had only allowed 14 sacks in 6 games with a 2-4 record. So they had 2 wins. Andrew Thomas went on a lineup. They finished with only one more win across 11 games to finish the season. They ended up with 34 sacks surrendered in those 11 games that he didn't play. That was an average of over 3 sacks per game. They were hovering around 2 sacks per game prior to Andrew Thomas going out with his injury. So the 6 games of the season that the New York Giants had Thomas, their offense, statistically speaking, was a lot better. After he was sidelined, it pretty much took a nosedive and completely went off the rails. So Thomas was very important in 2024, but I really think those 2023 stats are eye-opening as well for the 7 weeks of the season that he was sidelined. Of course, we remember week 1 was an absolute disaster for the New York Giants. They lost 40-0 at home to the Dallas Cowboys on prime time, no less. Daniel Jones played terrible. Andrew Thomas got hurt and was playing through an injury throughout the game and eventually had to miss time due to that injury. And of course, we know how the New York Giants 2023 season went. It was pretty ugly, as was 2024. So I'm going to go ahead and continue this conversation further. But first, I want to take a quick look over at BetUS and discuss one prop bet that I think looks great for Super Bowl Sunday. I'm getting really excited for the Super Bowl. It's just over a week away, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity to hopefully win some sports bets. I love betting on the big games. I've had a lot of success in the playoffs so far, thanks to BetUS and the great lines that they have. But I'm going to go ahead and quickly share my screen here so we can take a look at the props here on BetUS. And the one line that I'm clearly signaling toward right here is Travis Kelce, 65 plus receiving yards at minus 121. Travis Kelce, his ability as a receiver in big games just like this one, especially the Super Bowl. He is one of the greatest Super Bowl performers in NFL history. This is a huge game for him as he goes for the three-peat, and so do the Kansas City Chiefs. We're all hoping as Giants fans that they pull it off and beat the Eagles, of course. I think that Kelce has a big game. 65 yards seems more than reasonable for him. Last time he played in the Super Bowl, every time he's played in the Super Bowl, he's been a top performer. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a small bet down on it over here on BetUS. Going to bet $10 to win $18.30 and see if I go ahead and cash this bet. That would be tremendous. But guys, make sure you go check out BetUS. It is the sportsbook with the fastest payouts in the industry, and use code YouTube150 for a 150% deposit match up to $2,000 on your first bet. So go ahead, check out BetUS. Let me know if you're tailing that Travis Kelce bet. I really like it. I think it's going to be a winner. And so hopefully I earn a little bit of cash on Super Bowl Sunday. What could be better than that? But yeah, go check out BetUS. And I'm back into the conversation about Andrew Thomas. So when looking at Andrew Thomas over the last several years, or actually let's look ahead to 2025 and what the New York Giants are cooking, because the larger picture here for the Giants this offseason is let's make this a quarterback-friendly environment. We know that they're going to get a quarterback. Obviously, they're probably going to sign a decent one in free agency to set themselves up for the regular season, but they're also definitely going to draft one at some point in the upcoming 2025 NFL draft. But a quarterback is not going to succeed, just being frank, with Josh Ezeudu as their starting left tackle. That's not how it's going to work. Ezeudu was a guard coming out of college. I don't understand why the Giants have been so insistent on making him a tackle, because he's clearly not a good tackle at the NFL level and is better suited for the guard position. Now going into 2025, Andrew Thomas, he should be fine, healthy, and ready to go by week 1 with the Lisfranc injury. It was a season-ending surgery, yes, but it's not one that's supposed to cut into his 2025 regular season. So with Thomas back on the field, that's going to be very important for the development of this quarterback. I don't want the Giants to draft a rookie quarterback, throw him into this heaping mess that the New York Giants are, and just obliterate him. At the very least, I want that franchise pass-protecting, blindside protector left tackle covering him for the upcoming season. And that's why Andrew Thomas's health is going to be so important, especially for a young rookie quarterback. And when you're looking at the quarterbacks that the Giants could potentially draft, whether that's Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, or Jackson Dart, none of them really have that kind of, well, I would say Cam Ward has really good pocket presence and eyes in the back of his head ability. But Jackson Dart being one of the options and Shedeur Sanders being one of the options, they both have dealt with bad offensive line play in front of them at times, and they both have had ups and downs managing that pressure, particularly when it's coming from the blind side, and they're not able to maneuver away from it. So I think if you are going to plug a rookie quarterback into the situation, you want to make sure that you have a good offensive line in front of him, as you do with every quarterback, but especially rookies. Rookies are trying to learn the new speed of the NFL game. They're trying to understand how to maneuver in a tighter pocket at the NFL level with greater pass rushers than what they've ever faced. Having a good offensive line is of the utmost importance. The Giants really tried to set themselves up to have a better offensive line last year and plug a rookie quarterback in. They signed Jon Runyan. They signed Jermaine Illuminor. They made some improvements on the offensive line. They didn't get the quarterback, and then injuries really derailed the offensive line. But I think we all remember how good the offensive line played through about the first 5 weeks of the regular season. Jermaine Illuminor looked like a home run signing, as did Jon Runyan. Andrew Thomas was healthy for those 5 weeks. Even John Michael Schmitz had some decent performances, and Greg Van Roten honestly was pretty solid through all 17 games of the season. So the Giants looked like they had a promising unit on their hands in the first month of the year. And then Andrew Thomas went down. And then that created a ripple effect across the offensive line where a bunch of other players started getting injured, and really the overall performance just tanked. And truly, I think that the injuries across the offensive line are a domino effect. And what I mean by that is when Andrew Thomas goes out of the lineup, then you have to plug somebody else in who's not nearly as good as Thomas. That player gets beat or has to overcompensate. Now this guy is trying to help him out and they're double teaming more. It just creates more stress on the offensive line. And when there's more stress on anything, something tends to break. And that's why I think so many injuries occurred on the Giants offensive line this past year. Particularly, take a look at Jon Runyan. Jon Runyan hadn't missed a game in his entire NFL career prior to this season. He ended up on injured reserve. Keep in mind, he was playing left guard. When Andrew Thomas went out of the lineup, on that left side of the offensive line, it was Jon Runyan plus a rotating door at left tackle. That definitely forced Jon Runyan to overcompensate on certain reps and try to add more to the pass protection or run blocking that he wasn't necessarily required to do when Thomas was there. Things like that lead to injuries. Bad football leads to injuries, and the Giants were forced to play bad football. But again, it was really a domino effect of losing Andrew Thomas. So in order for the New York Giants to make this a quarterback-friendly environment, yes, they need to add more talent to the offensive line. Yeah, they need to add another legitimate playmaker. That'll make life really easy for a rookie quarterback. But they need Andrew Thomas to stay healthy. And if they're not 100% confident that he can do that, they better go into free agency this offseason and sign a legitimate backup left tackle. This past year, when they were just trying to force Josh Azedo to work at left tackle, that was a bad idea. Go get a legit left tackle who could start 10 games for you in a season if you absolutely need him to. I think that needs to be among the Giants' top priorities. And I understand they have a lot of needs to fill. They got to add a defensive tackle, a cornerback, probably a safety as well, definitely another receiver, definitely a starting guard. But you also need to make sure you have good depth. And the Giants need to draft a decent left tackle who can start games for them this season, knowing how unreliable, unfortunately, Andrew Thomas has been over the last 2 years. So if Andrew Thomas is to stay healthy this year and they have a rookie quarterback in there for the Giants, I think that quarterback could find success if Andrew Thomas is healthy. But if Andrew Thomas is out of the lineup, I can't lie to you guys, I will be holding my breath for that rookie quarterback on nearly every single rep. And I've been talking about pass protection this entire time. Don't even get me started on the impact that Thomas has in the running game. The Giants' run blocking is a mess when Thomas isn't out there. He is one of the best run blocking offensive tackles in the NFL. So for the New York Giants offense to find any success, for the team to find any success, they need Andrew Thomas to stay healthy. I rest my case here. So pretty good discussion today. I wanted to bring up these stats. I thought they were very interesting and eye-opening, the stats of the Giants when he's on the field versus when he's off the field. And in particular, when he's not on the field, man, this Giants offense really sinks to the bottom of the NFL. And unfortunately, they've been near the bottom of the NFL for the last 2 years because Andrew Thomas has been on the sideline for the majority of the last 2 years. But hey, it's going to be a new era in 2025. The New York Giants are moving in with a new quarterback. Hopefully Thomas is there to protect his blind side, and we could spark a really nice comeback 2025 season for him. That is the hope, but that is not a guarantee. We'll see what the New York Giants do this offseason to position themselves to win games in 2025. And of course, I'm going to continue to update you on all of that right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure you go ahead and leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. And go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. And make sure you go check out BetUS and use code YouTube150 for a 150% deposit match up to $2,000 on your first bet. That'll pretty much do it. I'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.